Okay, guys, so this is a writing model of the beginning and the middle response to this poem. And then your task is just going to be to write the last paragraph, which is focused on love being presented as everlasting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the information on the next slide to you. Then I'm going to come back and read this model and just talk about the task that I want you to do. And hopefully that will help support you doing it, okay? So you're going to choose 3 of these tasks. You can either use 5 different colours to highlight the pearl structure, including where context is mentioned. You can underline any subject terminology. You can place in bold any key phrases to help answer that question. So, for example, any tracking phrases through the text, any analytical verbs like emphasising or suggesting, any evaluative verbs like criticising or praising. And if you find evaluative ones, you can put those into italics as well to show that you know they're different from analytical ones. You can also use brackets to identify any tentative language. And as you can see, each task has got a hyperlink, which will help you to understand what those things are. Okay, if I just click on one of those, it will take me down to slide 29, which will give me an evaluative verb list. Okay, so there are quite a lot of useful things after the end of the lessons for this week that you can use to help you with the learning. So evaluative verb list, tentative language, the pearl structure, subject terminology, and then in a minute, this will be useful to you, the poems on the theme of love and the comparative connectives, but they're not for this part of the lesson or this lesson, okay? So if I come back up here, I'm just going to read this model to you and just pull out a couple of those things, and then you need to actually analyse it yourself, okay? So the sonnet begins with Barrett Browning clearly stating the topic of the poem, common in sonnets, how do I love thee, let me count the ways. This suggests that there are many aspects to her love for her husband, and the notion that she must count the ways suggests her love is very deep. So we're using verbs like suggest to analyse what's going on in the quote and expanding by giving 2 different kind of bits of analysis there. The poet has used the rhetorical question of how do I love thee, so we've got terminology, more focus on language there, to signify that she doesn't need an answer. From this, the reader imagines that their love is strong, so strong that it goes unspoken. Also, Browning presents love as immeasurable, as she loves her future husband to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach. So we've got clear point, clear evidence. The repetition of the word and suggests her excitement and passion towards her future husband. Barrett Browning celebrates the purity and spirituality of the love with the word soul. This would resonate strongly with a 19th century audience where society was more religious. The thing that I think it actually lacks a bit of is context. So there is some context, but it's not as obvious as it could be. So she says things like her husband. So the writer knows it's about her husband, but he doesn't tell me specifically who her husband was or any of the situation there. Okay, so you'll analyse that using these instructions here. Then you're going to come down to this bit and you're going to try and write the last paragraph. So finally, love is presented as everlasting when. So you try and include your quotation, try and analyse what the quotation shows and what the writer's message was for the reader. If you really struggle with that, on slide 14 there is a writing frame, but I only want you to use that if you're really not sure how to write that last paragraph. Okay. And then just give yourself a little bit of self-assessment, and that is the end of lesson 1.